how do you, okay, in myself, I've been experimenting on how to have motivation. And the thing that has been really helpful recently, I feel like there are a lot of phases actually, and it really depends on your mental state. And I think all of this self help stuff that you can see people talking about, I mean, I think everybody really has to just be very open minded and try their own solution and see what feels right. To me, there are a lot of factors involved. First of all, the first thing was I felt blocked at first. Um, and I took a while where I was just, and I'm still in this phase really, trying to be good to myself. I have a lot of free time and I'm being quite generous to allow myself to explore and legitimize every part of my brain. So, sometimes I will be very stressed and then I'll tell myself, no, don't, like that's, I don't know, how do I say this? I'll tell myself, I'll be angry at myself for being in a mental state that I'm not proud of or something like that. Or at other times, I will be ashamed or embarrassed to feel like I need a certain thing. For example, I felt like I needed people as a source of motivation. Like, I felt like when I'm doing physics, the times when I'm most motivated are actually when I have some interaction with another person in the physics world. And it motivates me to be better. But I don't like that feeling because it makes me feel out of control. Because I'm weak, I depend on other people. I can't just, I can't just build my own world. But the thing is, maybe that's how it is, and maybe it's not so weak or shameful at all, And that sounds kind of obvious in some ways, yet the tendency for me to feel down on myself because I realize that somehow my mental state depends on interaction with others, is still there, even if I conceptually I think that that's not a problem, and maybe that's in some ways even good, because society is helped when people need each other, and in some ways all the independence that we've gained through the internet has just made people more lonely. Hasn't necessarily, there's good and bad. Right, so the first thing was really just acknowledging, just being very, very, like, anything fucking goes, man. Whatever I feel, I just observe it in a kind of meditation type of mentality where it's like, okay, this is what I see in my brain. And, like, I didn't want this to be the reality, but I kind of have to acknowledge my reality. So you can't make progress unless you see where you are. And where you are, what does it mean to see where you are? It means to understand the factors impacting your everyday life. And a huge part of that is understanding. I just feel that you can't do it without somehow being able to be self-aware, even of the things that are difficult to explain to others and feel proud of. So you're gonna have to be self-aware of things that you can't necessarily tell a good story to somebody about. You're gonna have to be aware of things that, by some standards in society, some people may look down on. And I know that my mom often is the type of person to look down on certain type of emotional things. And I don't know if it's for that reason or not, but I do have that tendency sometimes. Now, that was kind of step one, is just be really fucking loosey-goosey with yourself and aware of where you really stand and how you really work. And maybe other people don't work that way, and maybe you have weaknesses that other people don't. And maybe you feel that you wouldn't be accepted by other people or whatever, but just have to be aware of it and live in the reality that you're really in. Now, that was one important step, and that's still kind of ongoing. I think I've made progress there. I don't feel as brain blocked as I did, some at other times in the somewhat recent past, although it might be kind of a changes every day type of thing. But I really don't want to feel brain blocked. I don't really know how to say it, but that I'm somehow, I find some part of my understanding of reality too inconvenient to address. I can't really do that. It really helps me to address and give the stage to everything. That's kind of part one. Part two is motivation to kind of follow through on doing things that, step by step, like one little step at a time, bring you closer to something that you, at least at the moment or in recent days, have believed in. Because I've had some days where it was really hard to motivate myself, or where I was doing something and part of me thought I should be doing it, and part of me thought it was just a bunch of shit and that it was useless or hopeless, or that I wasn't sure that I shouldn't maybe be doing something else and I was wasting my time, because there are so many things that I could do with my time that, everything has an opportunity cost and blah, blah, blah. I didn't think about it in that word, but it was kind of that type of thing. And what has helped me there is, I think that that type of thing can really be exponential, but you can't really expect the top of the exponent when you're at the bottom. You just have to say, if I can do anything, then I've done a step, I'm probably going to feel really unhappy with that step, because my expectations for how I could be, and I want to be, I want to make it look easy. I want to do great things that I can be proud of. And today all I did was download a textbook, and I didn't even fucking read it. you know. But, and that's sad, you know, and I'm not proud to say that, because there was a day when that's basically all I did. I downloaded a few textbooks, and I didn't read them. Um, but what's missing is not necessarily the work itself, but the system of motivation for doing work. And sometimes when you don't have that system and you just have a faraway or a goal that's very romanticized, not necessarily unrealistic completely, but still probably step 100 and you're at step 2. It's just easy to devalue everything you do in that kind of situation when you're at step 2 and you don't have any idea whether you're ever going to reach step 100, or whether, like, you don't have any, there's never a guarantee that you are at step 2 and there is a step 100. Maybe you're just fucking doing some shit and you're going to spend months doing it and then realize that you were wasting your life, or you had some other opportunity you could have taken, or whatever, you know. And that's hard to work when you can't see value in the things that you do. And so I think progress doesn't always come from saying, oh, I worked 8 hours today, I worked 6 hours today, I worked 10 hours today. I think that, like, you might not be able to, that's kind of like the top of the ladder. Any of those numbers of hours are like, if you work that much in a day while you're, you know, not in like a system of motivation created by a job or school or other people, basically, if you work that much in a day completely on your own with no schedule at all, that's insane. I mean, that's really quite good. And of course, there are people who do that. There are people who do more. There are people who do much less. But judging yourself by things that people talk about on the internet, like, yeah, Elon Musk, I work fucking 12 hours a day. That's what it takes to get to the top, you know, shit like that. People say things for reasons that are sometimes self-motivated. Now, I'm not saying that somebody like Elon Musk is necessarily, like, bad intentioned or something when saying those type of things, or that there's some kind of intentional manipulative element of that, but there's a motivation to make others impressed with you by saying how your life is, or also to inspire the people at your company to feel like that's a normal thing to work that much because that's what Elon is doing, and that maybe Elon is their hero or something. And so people say all kinds of shit, like, and it can be very successful people too, But their success was not in doing things that make other people successful. Their success was in some specific thing that they did, making this or that company or whatever. And so they won't necessarily say things that affect you in a way that are going to make you that are going to bring you farther in your goals, I say. Yeah. So what I really want to say here overall is you kind of have to take your own fucking way. If people say shit on the internet about the ingredients for success and some shit like that, you're just gonna have to say, I don't know what the fuck that shit is, and just try to figure out your own life, really. Because everybody else has missing information about the context of you, how you feel, your life, a ton of important factors that can go into what's a reasonable thing to want to change or improve on or care about or think about. And for me, it was immensely helpful to start off being happy with anything that I intended to do that I did. And even if and to take note of those things that I did follow through on and have some degree of pride, even amidst the general dissatisfaction that I might feel about the status of my life at times, not always, but in some part of me, it does become dissatisfied about a number of things, Yeah. Even in light of that, even if you do something for 15 minutes and it works and you did it, maybe you failed to do something else as well, or a few other things. And maybe the rest of the day you were anxious and you watched a bunch of bullshit on YouTube or scrolled Instagram or some shit, But don't forget that you did that 15-minute thing. And say, okay, I took a little bit of progress today, I did a little bit of something. And remember that. And that's what helps for me. Because then if I do that 2 days in a row, then I remember, okay, I was motivated enough to do that. It gives me like a sense that I have some control over my own life. And then I'm like, okay, 2 days later, I'm like, okay, so I am able to do something. I am able to make a choice and do something. And then sometimes just knowing that I was able to do it, say 2 days in a row, for 15 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is that I managed to get done, say, okay, I can reproduce at least that on the next day, And then sometimes you can't really expect this, but sometimes it can happen that just knowing that you have some degree of agency over, to follow through on some things, and maybe you only spend 25% of your time actually following through on goals, and the rest of it is reacting to things that happen in life, or relaxing, regenerating yourself, distracting yourself from difficult thoughts. That knowledge of agency can sometimes induce spontaneously just a day where you work for 5 hours all of a sudden, and you feel great. Just because you have discovered the fact that you're able to produce things that you intended to, But the hard thing is then, if you come to expect 5 hours a day, or whatever it might be, there's always a balance somehow of satisfaction with having accomplished this and that, with general dissatisfaction of, I'm not elite enough, or some shit like that. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but that's kind of an impulse in my mind. Somehow I want to be establish myself. I don't know what it is. And I part of me finds that disgusting, and I don't know. But I know it's in a lot of people as well. I was often a little bit elitist, like when I played World of Warcraft. I wanted to be the best guild. I wanted to be the best, acknowledged on my server and stuff. That's a whole nother topic, but okay. The two main things that I talked about today were steps in reaching a mentality where you feel control in your life. Number one was take a long time, maybe weeks or whatever. And honestly, I do have the privilege of having a lot of free time right now, and that made all the difference in this. Take a long time of being very allowing with yourself and understanding what's in your mind and how you feel and what things go on and how that affects your life, and really understand what's happening in your mind, even when it's causes conflict with how you would like to tell yourself to be, or tell others how you are, or imagine yourself. That was number one. And number two was take little steps. Even when you're feeling overwhelmed that you should, you're so far away from the goal, like take a little step to see, can I be in control of something? Can I do 15 minutes? And this is a lot easier right now for me because I'm not under any pressure to get a minimum number of things done. And so I can say, okay, I'm working on it. I'm building up I'm building myself up emotionally now, and that's the work in some sense that I'm getting done. And that wouldn't be easy to do if I was in somebody else's system. Like, I'm free right now, but obviously at work, whether or not your boss may acknowledge something like that, it might not be easy to even talk about that, because if they reject it, then it makes it harder for you to fully live it yourself, because then you're in a source of conflict between you and what you think that they would think. And that freedom makes all the difference. Freedom and time make all the difference in this. So yeah. Those are my thoughts for today. Bye bye.